That's true, and sometimes the local media is criticised for not giving enough to the Irish League, but without the local media, Irish League football would have nothing, and I think the fans deserve coverage in the newspapers, coverage on television. It's great that McLean's are doing this, it's fantastic to see, and of course they have backed Irish League football, and maybe the powers that be should look at those different elements and think, well, if they can do all that, maybe we should be doing something too. If you remember back in 1998 when Cliftonville won the title, they sunk like a stone the next few years, and this Cliftonville side, that won't happen. I'm sure about that. They've got too many good players like Liam, and when you look at last season's record, Linfield just lost just about everything. I would go as far to say, Logie, that it was the worst season I can remember from a Linfield team. They were abysmal, and David Jeffrey just won't stand for that. He's already brought in good players. The players that were already there know that basically, if they don't deliver this season, they'll be out in their ear. And I think what happened in Europe has given them confidence. So I would be tipping Linfield for the title, but Cliftonville are going to run them close. There's no question about that. Tommy Breslin's built up a really good squad there, and Cliftonville won't want to be known as one season one.
The answer I gave to the first question, in many ways, has dealt with part of the second. I would say this: there are 40,000 people on the waiting list, but I could own a house in Cultraw worth £1 million and still be on the waiting list. Yes, I do wish. Not much chance of it. A person could be the owner of a house worth £1 million or whatever at Cultraw and still put themselves down on the waiting list. Anybody can put themselves down. You could be there with no points. You could be on the waiting list with no points and you're still on the waiting list. You're dealing with actually a smaller number than the number that has been mentioned there in terms of real need. And that's why, of course, we deal with the issue of stress, people who are over 30 points, rather than people who are possibly sitting there with no points or already homeowners. A person can be a homeowner in any situation and still put themselves...
I totally think the clubs have really performed heroically in Europe pre-season, especially Linfield, you know, and so unlucky to go out on away goals. And I think that, you know, the clubs can do so much, the media can do so much, the fans can do so much, but we must get leadership from the top. And whoever's in charge of that, you know yourself, you've been in this game a long time, you know the football game inside out. The product's excellent, Adrian. I think we have some tremendous young players. And you know, it's okay talking about the big high-profile clubs in England and in Scotland, but did you ever sit down at home and you're really geared up to watch a top-class English League, Premier League match, and you have a big mug of tea, and within 5 minutes you're flicking channels because it's absolute rubbish? And you know, we have a great product here, but we've got to entice the fans out. We've got to make it that the fans can enjoy it. We've got to make it that it's cost effective as well. You know, a parent taking in a couple of lads or whatever, or a couple of children to a game, it must be that there are incentives there to bring the family out, because we have to look at the new generation of fans. I think youngsters, to be honest, under a certain age should be free. If they're along with a paying adult, I think they should be free. We are in a global economic downturn, as we all know. Money's tight. Let's get the incentive out to the fans. It's the fans that matter, Adrian. And that's why you're seeing every season a decrease in attendance numbers.
People who have expertise in this field, that we literally, the lights could go out in the north. And that is a major, major issue of concern for us all, for domestic consumers and for business alike. We can't afford to have that happen. From NIE, that they had a couple of interconnectors, one at Enniskillen and one coming through from Letterkenny. But again, we have to find out what the capacity of those is, if in the interim they can provide us with some feed into the north from the rest of the island, some electricity feed, what their capacity is, how that can help out, how the cost of electricity, where we're hearing both from, well, clearly from consumers, particularly many people who are affected by fuel poverty, who have to make choices between whether they heat or eat, literally, in their homes. And thank God, so far this year, the winter hasn't been too bad. The weather hasn't been too bad.
It's a great honour to be asked to run for the presidency of my country, and I obviously had to give very serious consideration to the decision. Once I was asked, was I prepared to do it? I had to take a number of factors into account. Obviously, first and foremost was my family, who have always been hugely supportive over many difficult decades. And the second was the stability of the institutions in the north, and I was absolutely satisfied that the foundation stone that was laid by ourselves, the work that I did with Ian Paisley and Peter Robinson, meant that those institutions, which are power sharing in nature and all Ireland in nature, would survive and indeed go from strength to strength. And sure, why wouldn't they, with people like Pat Doherty and John O'Dowd and Michelle Gildernew and Michelle O'Neill and all sorts of great people like Jerry Kelly.
First met Alan at a NICVA, a recent NICVA event, when they launched the report looking at the devolution, or the potential devolution of further fiscal powers, and I found his work and his presentation absolutely fascinating, and I'm sure all of you will find the same today as well. The Committee for Finance and Personnel has followed the debates on devolution finance in Scotland and in Wales with considerable interest, and as Alan will discuss, there has not been the same kind of wide-ranging public debate here in the north as there has been in Scotland and Wales, and is now actually beginning in the City of London as well. So, as we all know from the recent debates within these islands, there is a change in dynamic, there's a changing debate. The Scottish independence referendum is next year. There's discussions about Devo Max and Devo Plus, and this is an area throughout all of these islands that people and policymakers are looking at more keenly.